Good afternoon, this is Paul Turner, the Immigration Barrister to Imperium Chambers. Thank you very much for choosing to click on the channel. Please subscribe and hit the notification button for any updates in respect of immigration law. This video is an update or follow-on from my previous video on indefinite leave to remain, the recent case of Asif and breaks in leave, which do not mean that you will not get ILR. As you'll recall, the case of Asif confirms that even if you have gaps in your leave that have previously been disregarded, you can still be successful in a 10-year application for indefinite leave to remain in the United Kingdom, which is great news, and it expands the case of Hoque. As I mentioned, the case of Asif does expand the Court of Appeal's reasoning in the case of Hoque in allowing an individual to have numerous breaks in their leave and still, in certain circumstances, qualify for indefinite leave to remain. However, while gaps can be overlooked, it is only in certain circumstances, and I'm happy to advise on any particular case, that you can actually succeed. But it's really important to remember that the 10-year route for indefinite leave to remain requires you to have had 10 years continuous lawful residence in the United Kingdom. Continuous lawful residence is the key issue. It doesn't necessarily mean you've had to have had leave for that time. That's the key point. The question in the case of Asif is, can those gaps that were overlooked at the time of the granting of leave to remain count towards your continuous lawful residence? The Home Office, spurned on by the hostile environment, obviously argued that those gaps shouldn't count and said that Mr Asif shouldn't be granted indefinite leave to remain. But the court disagreed. They looked at some detail in the case of Hoque in the Court of Appeal and confirmed that yes, those gaps will be overlooked, even if they're in a considerable period of time. In the case of Asif, there was a break or gap of some 507 days. I've thought about it, and I've had some ETS cases where the person has not had leave for 6 or 7 years, and they still have been granted indefinite leave to remain following a successful appeal. This is excellent news for those people who have gaps in their leave but have been living in the United Kingdom for some 10 years or more but have leave to remain. The last video that I did generated a lot of interest, and I've had a fair amount of inquiries through Chambers, and I've seen a number of people to see whether they qualify under the 10-year route. I'm really happy to say that I've been able to help a number of these people in making an application for indefinite leave to remain following the case of Asif. The last video also had people who had no leave, but while they weren't able to qualify for indefinite leave to remain, upon examination of the facts of their case, it disclosed that they actually did have a really good case, but were too afraid to come forward because of the hostile environment. Indeed, in a number of cases that I've looked at, I've been able to identify a number of different options for people who won't qualify for indefinite leave to remain, but do have a good basis to stay in the United Kingdom. For example, as a result of the video, I'm working on a number of judicial reviews, leave to remain applications, and a number of other applications based primarily on human rights that people didn't think were relevant, but clearly are. In fact, of the people that we've had appointments with, I think the majority of them I've actually been able to see and identify a case. They've actually had a case, but because of the hostile environment and the press, they've been frightened to come forward. This, I feel, is excellent news. And if you are in a position where you've been here for a considerable period of time, you have had leave, and it's worth getting in touch, because you might not qualify for indefinite leave to remain, but you may well have an excellent claim. And there are a number of options open that we can explore together. So, in short, if you've been in the United Kingdom for a considerable period of time, you've established yourself here, maybe you've got family here, or maybe you've got some medical conditions here, you may well have, and you may not know that you have, a good claim for staying in the United Kingdom, whether that be by way of an application for indefinite leave to remain, or whether it's by way of a different application. But as I say, the last video generated a fair amount of interest and identified a number of people who both qualified for indefinite leave to remain, and also disclosed other cases that in my view, have an excellent prospect of success. So in short, If you have any questions or queries or doubts about your or any family members' immigration status, please get in touch with me and I'll do my best to help you. Thank you again for watching. Please remember to subscribe to my channel. I hope you're well. Stay safe. This is Paul Turner, the Immigration Barrister at Imperium Chambers.